Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Cleaner Facilities and Flu Protection. I'm Ann Cosgrove, the Editor-in-Chief of Facility Executive Magazine, and this webinar is presented by AeraMax Professional. Over the next hour, you will hear insights on how to reduce the risk of spreading the flu virus, how clean air can benefit your facility occupants, and the return on investment of cleaner facilities. Before we get started, I'd like to just cover a few housekeeping items. Please note the control panel on your screen. This is where you can submit questions via that question box in the panel at any time. Please send these in, as I said, any time, and our speaker will address them after the presentation. Also, please note the orange arrow on the left side of your panel. Clicking on that arrow will either expand or collapse the control panel, so please be sure it is expanded so you can access that question box. Also, if at any time you experience a technical difficulty, please do send a message to us also in that question section, and we'll address it right away. Now I'd like to introduce your speaker for today, Jeff Dryfhout. Jeff is the Global Director of Air Treatment at AirMax Professional. Over the past 20 years, he has served in various marketing and innovation leadership positions in organizations such as Quaker Oats, Conagra Foods, Sara Lee, and Nefellas. An MBA graduate of Pepperdine University, Jeff also serves as an adjunct professor at his alma mater, Trinity Christian College, and he serves on that school's Business Advisory Council. So before we do begin, there is a poll question we'd like you all to vote on related to the topic today, and that is up on your screen now. Which do you believe is the most effective way of protecting building occupants against the influenza virus? Please take a minute to cast your vote. And the choices are hand sanitization, frequent cleaning of high touch point surfaces, and that includes door handles, counters, and the like, washing hands, flu shots, or air purification. Please cast your vote. And without further ado, once the results are in, I will hand it over to Jeff. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for joining this webinar. We've got some great information here and really happy to be able to share that with you. With that, it looks like we've got the final pieces of the poll coming in. So which do you believe is the most critical in protecting against a few? And the leading winner at about 40% is washing hands, followed secondly by frequent cleaning of high touch point surfaces, followed then by hand sanitization or air purification, flu shots, and hand sanitization. So thank you guys very much for participating in that. And this is very common. That's something that isn't surprising. We've heard throughout the press, we've been taught our whole lives that washing your hands is the best way to protect yourself from the flu virus, and also those things that are on the surface, right? That's where germs live and high touch points, being able to clean that out. And so those are certainly very good things that are critical in helping against flu protection. But what I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about is obviously the air and the role that that can play in being able to help organizations create cleaner facilities and also protect themselves from the flu. So today, what will you learn? Let's keep it simple. 3 things. How does the flu really impact and affect my facility? We're in the middle of flu season here. So likely that many that you work with have been out with sick with the flu, or maybe your kids have been sick with the flu, but it's something that is going around certainly these days. To that end, what other factors contribute to poor indoor air quality? The role of the air in being able to how that impacts productivity and how it impacts a good work environment. And then thirdly, what can I do about it? You know, what are some of the things here? We just don't want to present, you know, some of the problems, but really put in front of you the tools and approaches that maybe you haven't thought about before, that you could incorporate within your facility to benefit those building occupants. So with that, obviously I'm from AirMax Professional, and we deal a lot with the air. And so as I go actually around the globe and talk to people about air quality, there's a lot of benefits. It's one of those universal needs, clearly. Think about the amount of effort that you put into the food you eat, right? Where was organic food, natural food 20, 25 years ago? It's about the purity of that food, right? Taking the bad stuff out, because things that we put into our body impact our body, right? Water. Purified water. My kids think it's ridiculous that when I was little I used to drink out of the garden hose, right, during the summer. Today they just don't do that. They've been trained and understand that they drink bottled water, they drink filtered water, you know, and their perception is that that's better. And again, it's all about taking the bad stuff out of the things that go into our body. So when you think about taking bad stuff out of things that go into your body, what about the air? Many times, and it's very common that many people aren't thinking about the air, and facility managers and building owners. It's an area that generally doesn't get too much given too much thought. And so what I want to do is talk to you a little bit about that, the benefits on how it keeps your occupants well, the role of how it improves productivity with your employees. And again, as a facility manager, you have a direct correlation to productivity and cost impact on the environment. We know that the biggest cost to any organization are the people and the benefit and the healthcare associated with them and things of that nature. So reducing absenteeism is step one of improving productivity, right? You got to show up for work. You got to be there, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. Eliminating pollutants, keeping a facility clean. Many people do not think about cleanliness when they think about the air. We put a lot of effort and investment into keeping a facility clean for many reasons. But what about the air? And that's something that's key. And then lastly, we know you guys are the complaint departments many times. And so those detectable type of air issues, generally smells, odors, things like that, make its way to your inbox. And so the ability to reduce those complaints is something very important. So with that, that's why we need to care about indoor air. But we also need to care about indoor air because there's really some more serious impacts here. ASHRAE, as you guys know, really a governing body that provides guidelines to building codes within the United States here, really speaks, and this is their own statement here, talking about that infectious diseases really can be accelerated by HVAC systems, right? By heating, venting, and air conditioning systems. Makes a lot of sense, right? I sneeze over here in my office. Based on that air getting taken out of my office, that can make its way throughout different parts of the building. And ASHRAE has really put that out as a key statement for all the people that are looking to improve the air quality. And so that's something we just need to think about, especially in areas where many people gather, right? We actually do the wrong kind of sharing when we get all into the same location. We're sharing germs, we're sharing air all together, and so that's something that we certainly need to be conscious of. And HVAC systems are primarily designed to do what? They're primarily designed to heat and to cool. They're not necessarily designed to clean the air. So that's something that we need to be aware of. As I mentioned before, why should we think about the air? Well, first of all, are healthcare costs going up or down? Well, certainly they are going up, and they are going up very quickly. This is just a survey that was done a year or two ago that talks about the annual healthcare cost per employee on a national average basis. So you can see, and if I look at 2015 numbers put in there, we're getting close to doubling the cost of healthcare only within 7 years. And so this is per employee. So as you think about the number of employees, multiplied that times that number, and that includes everything from, on the benefits and the healthcare side, it's significant. And so a lot of efforts take place within organizations to what? To improve the healthiness and the well-being of people so that it not only has a benefit for the people that are working, but it also has a cost benefit to the employers who are paying a good part of that medical bill or that medical insurance. And so efforts to limit the amount of claims has a double effect. It helps in productivity, but also helps in cost savings. So as facility managers, as building owners, you have a direct impact on the health and well-being of the building occupants, and conversely then, the ability to reduce the biggest expense within an organization, which is the people. Absenteeism. What is absenteeism? Absenteeism is the lack of someone being able to come into work, right, and not be present. They are absent. The number one reason for absenteeism is primarily illness and medical appointments. And as we dig a layer below this, the number one symptom or reason why people are going to the doctor's office for illnesses are respiratory-related illnesses. A lot of that is flu-related. Things that you're breathing in and you're contracting based on inhaling. And so the yearly cost of absenteeism alone, of someone not being able to come into work, is about $2,700. And again, that is added on top of the cost of providing health insurance to employees already. So we know how important absenteeism is, and that goes into loss. There's other softer costs to this as well, such as morale. I mean, if someone's out, who's going to pick up the slack? Someone else has to do that. maybe quality even suffers, and the productivity overall. So again, absenteeism is a big issue for the workplace, and something that needs to be looked at very keenly. Influenza is a big part of that. Influenza it impacts all of us, and here are just a few stats on how big influenza, just influenza alone, impacts. About 17 million missed days of work here in the U.S., 38 million missed days of school, right? Our kids certainly, spread the flu very quickly. A lot of that is because schools have actually the most people per square foot from a building standpoint, right? I mean, you put 25 kids in a classroom, a small classroom, and kids who maybe aren't necessarily making sure that they're being as hygienic as they can, germs spread very quickly. And then also, we're seeing the degree and the severity of the flu increasing as well. Over 200,000 hospitalizations take place. So as we know, the influenza is most susceptible for those who are young and those who are old, and also those who have compromised immune systems. So we know the importance of schools, assisted livings, doctors' offices, things of that nature. But again, the influenza is a very big deal for all of us. Here's the interesting stat. I pulled you guys earlier to talk about, hey, what do you do to protect yourself against the flu? We know more now about how to protect ourselves against the flu than we ever have. 15, 20 years ago, where was hand sanitization? I don't remember that. You walk into a building now, you can't not run into a bottle of hand sanitizer or a hand sanitizer dispenser. The amount of effort we know about the importance of washing your hands. But all of those efforts really have had limited impact. Flu cases have not declined in the last 12 years. This comes from the Centers for Disease Control, the U.S. CDC. They've got a special division around the flu that just tracks the flu. As you can see overall, that we're really not making a dent into the cases, which is a bit perplexing, right, given all that we know. The flu shot, right? It's who's gotten their flu shot so far? So something that a lot of organizations put in here at Fellows. If we get a flu shot, we got wellness points, right? So organizations are encouraging their employees to get a flu shot with the intention of being able to avoid getting sick and therefore making medical claims and also being able to come into work. But last year, how effective was last year's flu vaccination, right? It was 19% effective. That means 8 out of 10 people that got the flu shot last year, it didn't work. It just simply wasn't effective. Now, we know that every year the flu vaccination is created the year prior. And so what it has done, what they're doing is basically putting an educated guess and projections around the type of flu strand that will be there. So there will always be a level of guessing that takes place. However, this past year, what ended up happening was something fairly unique, where the flu virus that was most common out there actually mutated. So the vaccine that was out there was no longer effective against the flu that was out there. And so that's a bit of a false remedy here. When 8 out of 10 people who have actively gotten the flu shot still could get the flu, that's a big deal. And what we're finding is more and more people are even electing not to get the flu shot because they know that effectiveness is not that great. So, I mean, despite our best efforts, we get sick. We get sick a lot. There's 1 billion colds per year, 60 million flu cases. And why is it? What are we missing? Well, what we're really missing is that many of the germs, including the influenza virus, are airborne. And what that means is basically we are inhaling the viruses that make its way past our defense systems and make us sick. The Centers for Disease Control, again, I'll go back to them, have stated that the air is more likely to transmit the flu than surfaces. And now that's really interesting, right? What has been out there? What has been the lead messaging that's been out there around how to protect yourself from the flu, right? It's been about washing your hands, and it's about using hand sanitization and getting the flu shot, right? All of those don't address anything air-related. And so it makes sense that we're not seeing a significant decline in influenza cases because we're not addressing the primary way in which you're getting the flu, which is inhaling it. So washing surfaces and washing your hands are not necessarily a bad thing. how viruses spread, there's a couple different ways. One is we talk, as we sing, as we sneeze, as we do whatever. We are emitting germs that are into the air, and those large to small infectious droplets do make their way onto surfaces and onto high touch points. And so we do have to consider, or we do have to continue cleaning those different types of areas. So hand and surface hygiene is critically important. But it's the infectious droplet nuclei, the smallest of particles that actually, when you sneeze, when you cough, when you talk, that remain suspended within the air. They remain in the air and then they get inhaled. And because these droplets are so small and so light that they remain airborne, is they're easier to actually pass through our dispense system. And so, so that's concerning, and that's something that really needs to be addressed by these organizations if we want to protect our employees against the flu. Now, one of the things that usually comes up as I talk about this slide is, well, why does the flu really peak within the winter time frames? And a lot of people will kind of guess at that and say, well, you know, we're indoors more, you know, we stay inside a lot more. Well, actually, it's not necessarily the case. Some of the science behind this will say that because the air is drier in the winter, and especially a lot of the colder climates, that this allows the influenza virus to stay airborne longer, giving you more of an opportunity to inhale and breathe in the influenza virus more than you would in a humid environment where that's going to fall down onto a surface more quickly. And so, so that's kind of a big understanding. Knowing how to fight the flu, we got to know how the flu virus is spread. Okay. Here's the other thing that we're finding is we're highlighting the flu here, but other infectious diseases are really shockingly on the rise of late. A lot of this is happening primarily due to fewer and fewer children even getting vaccinated these days. There's the anti-vaccine movement that has really caught storm here. Some examples over the past year is measles. Over 100 measles cases started actually from Disney theme parks. The enterovirus at the beginning of the school year, hundreds of children were hospitalized with severe flu-like symptoms, and that really made its way across the different states. And then this one is really surprising, whooping cough. The highest case is reported in over 16 years. Didn't know whooping cough was making a comeback, but it is. What do all these three have in common? They all are airborne. They're all contracted by inhaling something from the air. And so not only flu, but some of these other ones, due to some of the that have more of an option of more of an opportunity to be spread because of fewer people getting vaccinated, is becoming a challenge. So think about your own organization, especially if there are the young and the old or the sick that are within your facility. Is something you definitely need to be taking care of. So the German virus side is something that we certainly want to be focused on within keeping a clean environment. But what other factors are really contributing to poor indoor air environments? You know, the one that gets a lot of press is outdoor pollution, right? So what you see here is actually a satellite picture from NASA. It's a thermal image that is taken of the United States, obviously. And what it's doing is it's measuring and showing the concentration of what we call PM 2.5. PM is particulate matter, and 2.5 is the size based on microns, okay? So I'll give you the simple coding here. Red is bad, blue is good. And so what you're finding here is that the World Health Organization says an acceptable level is basically, you don't want to be in light green. That's kind of the borderline. So anything green, yellow, red is above a healthy it's below what they would say is a healthy requirement. What you're going to find here as you look at this is a lot of this is concentrated around cities and highly densely populated areas. Take a look on the West Coast there. You'll see the California Valley, which is famously known for many of its smog that's being captured there. But you're seeing things like New York, Chicago, a lot of Indianapolis, Ohio, a lot of areas over there that are getting trapped with outdoor air pollution. Now the key with outdoor air pollution is it makes its way indoors. Okay, and that's another thing that we need to remember is that while the press talks a lot about the outdoor air, indoor air is actually more polluted than the outdoor air. 2 to 5 times more polluted than the outdoor air, and some studies will say up to 10 times more polluted. How can that be, right? Well, outdoor air makes its way in, first of all, but then secondly, what you're finding is that once the air is inside, it circulates its way around, it stays inside, And as you introduce people into an environment, it just pollutes the air even more and more, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But why is indoor air important for us? Well, we spend a lot of time indoors. On average, Americans spend about 90% of their time indoors, and 9 hours are in shared places. That could be at work, that could be at a school. It's a place what we call shared air, is where you're actually sharing the air with a lot of other people, okay, and increasing the probability that you're going to get sick. So indoor air is actually more harmful than outdoor air. What are some of the other things that we need to consider about the air and keeping a facility clean? Allergies. If 20% of people have allergies, which means 1 out of 5 people on this call suffers from some sort of allergy. It could be a seasonal allergy that you're getting in the spring and the fall from pollen or ragweed or mold. Maybe it's a pet allergy that is taking place. But it is actually, allergies are the #1 driver of personal air purifiers. And those with allergies can tell you how frustrating, how uncomfortable it is, and how unproductive you can be by having allergies. And so that is a big deal of why we need to keep the air clean, because those with that are sensitive to allergies, certainly it impacts them directly. We are also seeing that asthma rates are on the rise, and so the National Institute of Health here is showing that the asthma rates in children under the age of 5 have increased over 160% over a 14-year period. More and more kids are getting have asthma, which means there's a sensitivity to the air and what they breathe, and making it more difficult for them to breathe. And therefore, the cleanliness of the air is that much more important for them. Okay, so this is a generation of kids that are coming through that are going to have high sensitivity to air. So again, schools, daycares, high schools, universities. This is something that has to be taken into consideration there. But one of the highest drivers of allergies is actually dust mites. It's something that every one of us could be impacted. Dust mites might be the most common cause of year-round allergy and asthma. So dust knows no season, right? It is all around us all the time. As I've shown here, is if you've ever seen the sunlight shooting through the window and you can see those particles floating around, it's probably dust, and there's a lot of it there. You're taking that in every single breath, and so there certainly is that is a big trigger for asthmatic conditions. And again, it also speaks to just overall facility cleanliness, right? What goes in the air will come down, and it will land on surfaces. And that's why we clean, that's why we dust, that's why we vacuum. But capturing that before it lands, and more importantly, capturing that before someone breathes it, is critically important. One of the silent items that we hear a lot about and that impacts the air is a VOC, volatile organic compound. Let's just call it a VOC for simplicity here. But basically what that is it's a chemical, it's a carbon chemical that actually makes its way out of products and into the air, and then we breathe that in. And so what ends up happening is there are some common things within an office environment that has a VOC, that is evaporating some chemicals that are in the air that you breathe in. Things like paint, even cleaning chemicals. So in an effort to clean, there are VOCs in many cleaners. A lot of carpeting, especially older carpeting, padding, linoleum. If you've got linoleum within an environment, it could have VOCs, especially if it's older. Insulation. A big source of VOC is actually even particle board. Some types of particle board, again, depending on where it's made, which is why I show a picture of a desk here that may be made of particle board. Copy machines and fax machines are also giving off VOCs as well, in addition to some other things. And so again, very common, ordinary things that are here that could be dirtying the air without you even know it. VOCs are not really detectable by the human nose. And so with that, what happens? Why do we care about VOCs? Well, you know, it triggers headaches, it triggers asthma, it triggers allergies attacks. And this is coming from the Environmental Protection Agency. And we also know that there's a lot of VOCs in a lot of different products. So as you're thinking about your environment, especially if you're remodeling or new constructing, make sure that your componentry and the things that you're building do not have VOCs in it. Or even if you're in an older building, there's a high chance that you then have VOCs, which could be irritating and causing some problems for the building occupants and people that walk into your building. What else in the air. Odors. Odors are another thing that really can drive some issues within an organization. We don't commonly think about odors and cleanliness of a facility, but think about that. If you've got a negative odor, what does that say about your environment? The perception is that it's going to be a dirty environment. That's really what consumers would be thinking there. What sort of odors do we come across a lot? Food, certainly there's the good kind, and the smell of a good bag of popcorn is good as long as you don't set it wrong and then you have burnt popcorn. But certainly there's leftovers. When your coworker comes in and brings his 2-day-old cod in for lunch, that certainly can stink things up. Perfumes, colognes, fragrances from other coworkers can be a problem. Fitness facilities. Fitness facilities approach us many times, specifically around the area of mold and things that come from sweat and water-based types of odors. Restrooms certainly have odors, but smoking. A lot of times what we'll find with many companies are saying, certainly we're smoking outdoors, but somehow that smoke likes to make its way in. Either that's through entryways, that's coming through vent systems, and things like that. And last one, we all have refuse. We all have garbage or recycling containers that are around that certainly can cause some smells. So common areas like cafeterias, break rooms, coffee rooms can be big drivers of odors. Restroom air, we kind of hit upon that earlier, but unless your employees are camels, 100% of all your employees do use your restroom. And that's not only your employees, but it can be customers, vendors, clients, guests, and visitors are there. Restrooms are an area, what we call a constant source of contamination. This is an area that is constantly germ sensitive, and there are some. I'll show you some slides specifically around this. This is an area that most facilities really vary in how clean they make their facilities. And what we know is that about 2/3 of people, 2 out of 3, believe that a restroom is a true reflection of how the organization feels about them. So a clean restroom that's odor-free, that's addressing germs, certainly has a much more positive impact on a restroom that does not. And odor and air is a big part of that, specifically around germs, which I'll highlight here. One of the things that I'm showing you here is this is actually a model of a women's restroom. And those what you're seeing here are 6 different stalls, toilet stalls. And the one on the left is a measurement of what we call the cloud that comes out of a toilet after it's flushed. Yes, it happens. And again, most of the places in the facilities do not have cover on toilets, so when a toilet flushes, there is a plume that then comes out and makes its way throughout a whole environment. And again, not to completely gross you out, but this is what's happening. So the red is a parts per million. So what is going in the toilet makes its way up out into the air and gets breathed in. And so we know that without filtration, there is a very good likelihood that things are getting spread that you certainly do not want to get spread. And so we'll talk a little bit more about it, but on the right, you see when you add filtration specifically to a room, how much better that is controlled. And again, that's because it's about being proactive and thinking about how do I clean that air in those high constant contamination areas. Okay? Odors themselves, a lot of the solutions that take place, people aren't thinking necessarily a lot of times about air purification right away. Usually if there's an odor, the first reaction is, well, let's get an aerosol solution. Let's mask the odor, right? Instead of smelling something bad, let's have it smell like lavender or vanilla or something like that. Well, while that may by adding a fragrance, you may get a different smell, but what you're doing is really adding artificial contaminants into the air for them to breathe in. And so rather than removing the odor and removing, as you saw on the slide before, germs and viruses and different types of matter that might come from a toilet, just spraying something really is not a great solution for us there. So with that, one of the things I wanted to kind of take a pause on now is I've got another poll. So if we want to put that poll up right now, the poll that I have, you take a look on the right there, is does your facility utilize air purification? Real simple here, a yes, a no, or a not sure. So go ahead and submit your vote. Again, does your facility utilize, to your knowledge, any specific air purification efforts? Okay. Excellent. Good. Well, hey, the poll looks like about 54% of those polling said no. My organization does not utilize any air purification. About 27% said yes, I'm aware of air purification that is taking place there. And then 20% said, I'm not sure. So what we have here is about 75% of those in your facility, of those that are on the phone here, saying we either don't use air purification or I'm not sure. That's a big number, but don't worry, you're not alone. That's pretty common. It gets to the awareness of thinking about air purification. That's why you're thinking about the air. That's why you're on this, is to learn more about the role that air can play in keeping a healthy environment. So, so for the most part, one of the things we need to do is start thinking more proactively about what we can do about indoor air quality and how we can improve upon that. And I think one of the very first things that we're going to want to do with air purification, and not only keeping a clean environment, but also keeping a healthy environment, is really including air in cleaning and wellness efforts. And so, as was stated in the very first poll, what are you guys doing? Well, we're cleaning our hands, we're cleaning our surfaces. Here, those images are backwards, I just realized. But we're cleaning surfaces and we're cleaning the hands. So we want to continue doing that, because certainly we're finding that germs can be transmitted hand to hand and surface to surface. But adding clean air and air purification is that third leg of the stool. So cleaning your hands, cleaning the surfaces, and cleaning the air is really that last piece. It's really that that three-prong approach to ensuring that you're taking the bad stuff out. Okay. So one of the things we just kind of wanted to address here, and why we rolled out AeraMax Professional, is because of that third leg, right? Is being able to take the bad stuff out of the air to keep a more healthy environment. Fellows is an organization that's all about working better and working healthier. So we at AeraMax Professional is a commercial-grade air purification unit that removes 99.9% of those airborne particulates. In addition, it reduces the odors and VOCs, and we utilize HEPA filtration, but we also have many other stages that are in there that I'll talk to. One of the things as facility managers and building owners, as we know, is you don't want it to be a pain, right? And so what we created and built into this is actually smart sensor technology. And so this is actually auto-detecting technology, where the sensors will actually sense the occupancy in a room and then increase its performance accordingly, because what do we know? People, that's where the germs are, right? So we kind of follow the people. In addition to that, if it detects any odors or VOCs or gas, things like that, it will trigger on accordingly. So what does that do? It saves your energy, it maximizes your filter life, and it works when it needs to, right? No need for you to turn on, off, anything. It's set it and forget it. And we got different size machines, but each machine, or at least on the AM4 here, can do up to 400 square foot per machine. So again, you can put multiple machines in, or you can go down to a smaller size if necessary. The AeraMax Professional is wall mounted, so it gets up and out of the way. So in that bathroom environment, where would you want it? You want it directly above those stalls. In a cafeteria, you want it above the sinks, above the microwaves, up and out of the way, where people aren't tripping on cords, and it's part of the environment. It's a reliable system that is built for commercial environments. This isn't your cheap item that you get at Walmart. This is designed to be in a space with a lot of people. It's got locking mechanisms on it. It's got established housing that we utilize from our shredder technology and the motors that are built into there, and that's what it's all about. It's also very effective, which I'll get into. Common question people have is around the filtration here, and so given there's many types of filtration out here, but what we've elected to go with is one that is going to give you the confidence that you're going to be able to get rid of a lot of the bad things, specifically down to the flu virus. So we actually have a pre-filter which gets the large items, large particles in the air. We have a carbon filter. This is actually activated carbon, which is coconut shell, which is interesting. So it's a natural component which absorbs the VOCs and odors. And then HEPA filter. This is hospital-grade filtration that captures 99.9% of the viruses down to 0.3 microns. So this is what's capturing the flu. This is what's going to capture the TB. This is what's going to capture the rhinovirus, which is the cold virus. Okay. We also have an optional bipolar ionizer, if necessary, as well. And what that does is it takes the small particles, puts out a positive and negative charge, and what happens? Small particles become big particles, and allows us to capture it that much easier throughout the machine. As I mentioned, our technology is really unique. It's called EnviroSmart Technology. It automatically adjusts to optimize performance accordingly, and it does it based on sound, motion, odor, and to assess the room's occupancy. And so again, it is really set it and forget it, and it performs when it needs to, and goes into basically a sleep mode when it doesn't. So it's constantly cleaning, and that's part of the advantage here. AeraMax Professional. So we've got a laser focus on the flu. We know how impactful it is to everybody, and so AeraMax Professional actually catches the flu, so you and your building occupants do not. We have actually tested this and have proven third-party validation that this is tested to capture 99.9% of the airborne influenza viruses, okay? So as I showed you before, how is the flu being contracted? It's being contracted from person to person, and you're primarily getting it through the air. So it doesn't matter what strain of flu this is. It doesn't matter if the flu is going to mutate or not. This is going to capture it so that you're not inhaling it and your building occupants are not inhaling it either. Okay. We are the only commercial air purifier that's actually certified by the Asthma and Allergy Association, a certified asthma and allergy. So again, the amount of people, as I showed you, that are impacted by allergies, and that the growing number of people that are impacted by asthma are looking for products that can help them with relief and allergy and asthma relief. This has been tested by doctors and scientists to show that, and they've given their stamp of endorsement to say, yes, this will address asthma and allergy air contaminants. And so we're very proud of this certification, and it speaks to the quality and the efficacy. So air purification, you can detect the things you smell, right? But what about the invisible? What I'm showing you here is we actually have a measurement here it's in a particle counter. So this measures the amount of particles at 0.3, which is, by the way, virus level. It is measuring how many particles you're taking in every breath. So in this case, this is actually a fitness center. People that were entering the fitness center, every time they would breathe in, would be taking in 25,000 particles at that 0.3 micron level. That's a lot. So that could be, a lot of things might not be harmful, but many of those things could be harmful. And what we did is when we ran AeraMax Professional in there, you can see the reaction was immediate. So in less than, 30 minutes here, there was a 70% reduction in the airborne particles that were in the room. So again, as an organization that's responsible for making sure the health and wellness of its people, the ability to say, hey, if we can reduce the chances of someone inhaling the influenza virus by 70%, that'd be something I think would be interested in, especially given the fact that the flu cases have not been declining on a year-over-year basis. So this is the importance of cleaning the air. Where are we seeing this applied? And you may find yourself in one of these locations, but those areas that are most interested in our product to date have been healthcare facilities, primarily waiting areas. I mean, think about it. One of the few places where sick people actively come and all sit together. But yeah, it's healthcare facilities, doctor's office, examination rooms, actually even veterinarians with the big kennel cough and the dog flu that have been going around over the last 6 months or so has been a big part of this. Education is actually one of the areas that has embraced AeraMax Professional and integrated it into their environments because of the number of students. I've mentioned how densely populated these classrooms are, and again, if you've ever had a kid that you put into daycare, you're not wondering if they're going to get sick. It's going to be when, and so this helps protect against that. Office buildings, we talk about the role of absenteeism, the ability to keep employees healthy, productive, and reduce and minimize their exposure to healthcare costs. And then assisted living facilities, right? So the boomer generation is now looking at assisted living facilities and entering those. And so this is a big area where you want to make sure that we're addressing those with compromised health systems and creating a pleasant environment, an odor-free environment as well. So with that, guys, I hope I hit the original objective there, talking about what we can do about protecting against the flu, and also what else can contaminate the air. I know a lot of times that there is a lot of people aren't necessarily thinking about the flu primarily, or thinking about the air, but that's something was something that we wanted to raise the awareness of. So what we're providing to you is actually a free download. So if you go to airmaxpro.com you can actually download a free flu season special report. And what this does is it's got a lot of the information that you've got here, but a lot more details here that you can take around to your organization and talk a little bit more about the role of the air and how you can protect the people there against the flu, about creating healthier workers, students, and patients there. So it's absolutely free. Go to it and download that information, and we'd be happy to help you solve your air quality issues there. So with that, that concludes the content part of the presentation. And what I'd like to do is maybe take a couple questions here. So if you have a question, if you go on the right-hand side, please go ahead and enter that in. One of the questions here talks specifically about, can you give some examples of places where AeraMax Professional has been installed? Yeah, a good question. A couple of the things that couple of areas that I had kind of hit upon with schools, some doctor's offices, a couple of noteworthy ones that you might recognize. Legoland has taken on AeraMax Professional specifically because of the amount of kids that are making it through there, and there's a concern about the cleanliness that's taking place within the facility. So AeraMax has actually equipped the locations with AeraMax Pro. We also have several museums which have taken on AeraMax Professional. Again, they've got a lot of kids coming through, a lot of attendees coming through, and they want to create a clean and healthy environment that is there. And then again, most recently, we've also had some schools that have embraced it, where many kids are more and more sensitive to allergies and asthma and the flu. Question here, how about the impact of relative humidity, high or low, relative humidity, high and low on the unit? That's a great question. We get that a lot, especially as we get into some environments like down south where there's more humid environments. Indoor, the relative humidity the guidelines, ASHRAE guidelines would say you should stay around 65 degrees or 65% or lower. This works well, great within that environment. No problems at all. Once you're getting into higher humid environments, then actually you've got a bigger issue, quite frankly, because if you're getting up to 70, 80% humidity, then you are going to have mold issues. And AeraMax Pro you got to get rid of the source first. So I would say if you're getting into super humid conditions, then that's going to be a problem. But if you're within the normal humidity conditions, we have actually tested it against humid environments and have not seen any issues at all. Let's see here. In the restroom, how does the plume from the toilet stay so low with the filtration? So what ends up happening, quite frankly, is the concentration of the air is much more diluted because you are capturing the particulates right away. So as you recall, the ppm was at a 2.5 level, and that means a very thick, rich concentration. It's making its way throughout the environment. When you have the units right above the stalls, it's capturing those ppms or the particles right away, therefore reducing the whole concentration. And so that's what you're seeing there. So hopefully that answered your question there. Is there AeraMax machines for sale in Europe? Absolutely. Yeah, we actually are actively for sale right now in Europe. We've actually got an AeraMax website specifically for the European markets, and we can absolutely take care of you there. They're being sold right now in the UK, in the Netherlands. They're being expanded into France, Italy, and in Poland, I believe, as well. Couple other questions here. The cost of the units. Yeah, absolutely. The cost of the units have really range. So we've got the AeraMax 3, which covers 300 to 600 square feet. Now we've got the AeraMax 4, which will cover 600 to 1,400 square feet. So what you're going to find is that the AeraMax 3 is going to be about $1,500. Your AeraMax 4 is going to be $2,200 roughly. On average, another question we get is how much electricity does it use? I think right now the average usage is $12 a year, so very low. And again, that's because the sensors that are there. And then on the filter standpoint, you don't need to replace those filters for about a year. Again, if you've got a normal environment, you've got a full year usage on that. and then the filter display will give you an indication of when that needs to be changed. Many of the other competitors out there, you're needing to change it 2-3 months at a time, which can certainly be a problem. Let's see here. Average maintenance cost. I think I just hit that. It's low. It's like I said, $12 a year for electricity, and then the cost of a filter. A HEPA filter. I'll give you probably the 2-inch HEPA, which is capturing the 99.9% filter. That is going to be around 50, 60, 70 bucks, I think, roughly per filter per unit. So pretty low cost as you think about the benefit that you're getting in cleaning the air of not only the influenza, but just keeping an overall clean environment with dust and dirt and odor removal. So a lot of times what we hear people is kind of comparison. They're comparing the cost to fragrances and what they're using and spending there, and then they can convert that directly to this. We also have leasing programs as part of this as well. So let's say a big, maybe your organization is open a little bit more toward doing things on a leasing basis ongoing. That's something we absolutely do, and we hear a lot of times that that's maybe a better option for people. So that's certainly where we want to. We certainly offer that for you. We do have coverage throughout the U.S. So irregardless of what geography that you're in, we've got support in those areas to do that. Let me see here. I think that's about it right now. Let's see here. Hold on a minute. So one of the things that one of the questions here is about, if we got larger square footage here, right? How, for larger floor footprints, what do we, how can we use this? So yeah, what we would do is we probably take a look at what your environment is, and you could install multiple units to cover larger environments. AeraMax Pro is not for like a gymnasium, right? It's something for these shared environments that are within kind of the square footage ranges, and so there's a lot of customization that we can certainly make there. But we'd love to be able to work with you specifically on evaluating what you might need and how to install that. But we give you those square footages just as a rough estimate from which to develop. So okay, and thank you for the comments here. It sounds like the cost is really low compared to some of the other issues here. Cost is low compared to sick leave and absences. Yeah, so thank you very much for those comments. It's exactly one of the benefits here. So with that, I will close it up here, and I want to thank everyone for their time. Give you a couple of minutes free for the day here, but certainly I would highly encourage you to go to airmaxpro.com and download that free flu season report. If you're interested in someone to come out and, or you're interested in learning more, or if you're interested in someone coming out and actually doing an air quality assessment, we'll come out and measure the air within your space and tell you how you're doing. And that's all free. We'll certainly do a consultation. We're here to help. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for your time, and have a great day, and breathe easy.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. This is Ann Cosgrove again, coming back in. Thanks so much for your presentation and for fielding many of those questions that have come in. Thank you all for attending today. We once again want to thank AeraMax Professional for presenting the webinar, and let you all know, because we have had some questions come in, that a recording of this webinar will be available on facilityexecutive.com as well as on the AeraMax website, which is eramaxpro.com, and presentation slides will also be available upon request. So thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.